Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's September 3rd. Wow, I can't believe it's September already, but it is September 3rd, 2014. This will be our chart lesson for today. Fairly standard two-tiered uh, um, two-tiered channel working downward here. Um, we got a little break here. Finally moved to a new low, and then it started correcting. And of course, this is way too late in the afternoon. But quite a few nice shorts here. It really started out early looking like a trading range right in here. Um, the first trade that I really saw that was worth taking after the 7 a.m. Notice this, how it broke higher and turned down. You'd really be trading this as a range almost here because you wouldn't have had your trend channel until you had your first two swings here. And you might have even had this drawn a little bit steeper without this price action here, but when it you need to kind of adjust these as the day moves on. But you might add a little steeper, and that would have maybe put you into this channel a little quicker. Right? I mean, into this trade here. This is definitely a two-legged pullback, um, but it looks more like a trading range. Look how flat the EMA is. You're not really trending down. You're making lower highs, but you're not really making lower lows. This one you really trade is a failed break to the upper side. Look at that bearish bar. It broke higher first, turned down. So there's a nice short right there. Took it a little bit to get going, but you were looking for it to come back down to at least this level right here. And then you correct again. And there's probably there's a little midline in here. There's no probably to it. There is like a midline. You can see it right across there. I don't have it on there. And so you might have taken that second entry short based on that. And even if you drew your trend line originally, if you drew it off the closes, you might have had it a little bit lower. So there's a couple of different reasons to take that trade. It's a nice bearish reversal bar on my chart. So I liked it. There's enough room to get out. So if you're trading this little, and this is one thing you got to learn to do is draw these short-term trend channels. And notice the break here and a couple legs up, and so that was another reason. There's multiple reasons, but you got this one going up, and you might have had a close outside it right here. It's not much of a one, so it's really hard to say, but it's a two-legged correction. It's a midline. There's some other reasons to take that one. I drew it in green. If you saw it and you took it, that's great. Then you get a second entry short here. Again, it's right off that trend line. No matter how you drew it, the closes would have been inside. I kind of adjusted mine when we got in here. I didn't get in until around 9 o'clock, traded for a couple hours, and that was it. But there was some good trading right during that time. Seems like the last couple of days I've hit it just right. This is a second entry short. It's right off the trend line. You probably would have wanted to you could have used a stop because that bar is really bearish, but you might have tried to use a limit order right at that, or maybe a tick in. I know you would have got filled right at that level, and because there's not a lot of room here, and you've had some strong support. But if you saw this trend channel, this trend line working down, that would probably be enough reason to want to take it. I think it's a good trade. Again, it's a second entry short. Notice the new low, first entry pullback, second entry. Plus, you got those matching highs, and it broke higher and it failed, so there's a little bit of a trap there. It pulls back. Now, notice this little channel working up here. It's really probably a little tighter off those closes. You get a break, a move to a new high. It sails off. I don't like the setup right there. I think you're better off to see if you get a little trap, and you do right there. It breaks higher, comes right back down off that trend line. It comes right back down off that low. So it's a breakout pullback short. I like going short right there. And then you get a failed second entry long right here and a big bearish bar, so I like that one. It's right off that little short-term trend line, and you get a really good move there. You don't know that it's going to move down that strongly, but then it pulls back and tests the midline, and it breaks higher, and you get another bearish bar right off that trend line too. So there's several reasons to go short there, and then you finally get a break, and notice you aren't down here to this line here. This is probably just a tad higher right in here, right off that close, or this might even be just a little bit lower right there. Just trying to get it centered perfectly. I think that's it right there. That kind of catches the close, but it pulls back. it breaks higher, turns lower, uh, and then it comes back. And notice you aren't down at this line, and look at that big bearish bar. Um, I don't like going short there, but when this one closed, when it broke lower, I would have tried to get in with a limit order either right there or maybe tick back. There's plenty of room down to the lower side, and it could have gone all the way down to here, so you would have been looking, considering that a possibility. And but easy move. And then guess what? You start moving up. So draw your trend channel up. Look how that's holding prices right there, real neatly on both sides. And then you get your break, you move to a new high. This one I meant to change to green. I forgot. And that's a first entry. It's a little bit risky right there because you got the break. You do have the break and a new high, but it went a little bit higher. And there's some matching highs, and you got that little trap, but it closes a doji. So I'm a little leery. It's a second entry short, even counting with the trend. Notice the new low. It pulls back. First entry, pull back, second entry. It met all the criteria. So if you're wanting to be aggressive, you probably go short right there. It was an easy trade, but just, you know, this is where you might get a reversal or a break of the trend line that might give you another leg up. So, but then it tries to come up again and it hits the trend line, and look how the closes are right inside that, and it turns back down. Just go short right there. You don't have to wait. You might have waited on this bar when it broke lower, drop a limit order. It did come back and fill it here, but you might have even got filled right here. And it comes back. Now you got your failed second. Notice the new high, pull back, move down, pull back, first entry, pull back, second entry long right there. It fails, and look at that bearish bar. Go short right there. And this one, that was a nice move there, nice runner on that one. A couple of these, there were some nice runners that you would have caught. And that was the last one I marked. So pretty good trading day. Make sure you draw. It's amazing how many times I'll get an email and somebody will say, you know, how could I avoided this loser? And they're either not drawing their short-term trend lines or they don't get them quite right. And I wanted to show one a lady sent me, and this would be a good opportunity. This is a fairly short chart lesson here. I'll put her. Let me pause it and find her her chart, and I'll show it to you. Okay, here's her chart. And this was kind of in the trading range here, but you notice she's got the channels and all, so she's reading it very well. It does look like she kind of missed this, and notice how the EMA is flattened out here. She didn't say, actually I guess she did, she went short right here, but look how flat that's gotten. You can tell this is looking like a trading range. But here's the thing, notice her trend line. It's not holding prices, that's her short-term trend line. Obviously, she missed. She sees the lows here, but she's missing them right here because she didn't have a line across here. She's got one up here. And if you're looking at that one, you might be thinking prices are probably coming back to it. But I really believe that the eye of this little range is right across here. And that's your failed break. But she went short right here, and I guess it continued to go higher. And she's wondering what she could do to make sure to not get, and that does look very bearish right there. But if you draw your trend line right, it's right across here, and that's the first break. Notice that she's got it drawn, and that's you know, you're touching one bar there. Looks like you tried to use the closes, but you either should have started here and caught the closes, but really what it is, it's right across here. And if you come up here, that would have fit right here. You had a little overshoot. Let's go look at my chart. Trying to remember where that was. It was right here. There you go. Well, can't be right there because if she took that trade, it should have worked. Let me find it again. Okay, here we are again. This is around 8:30. This is right off the double bottom. There's two legs down. Okay, so let's look at. Okay, I see the problem. I forgot it was yesterday. It was off yesterday's charts. Here's where she's talking about right here. So let me show you what it looks like. That was your trend line. Notice how it's catching those closes. So you don't have a break yet until here. And what's going to happen when and notice that was the bar she was looking at. You got your break there and she got trapped. Well, that's your first break of the trend line. If you put that on there, there's a little overshoot right there. This is probably a double. Maybe there's a two-tiered. I just think it's an overshoot. No, it's a little two-tiered channel right there. You can see it. And there probably is a shorter term one here that runs just like that. And notice this, you get your break, a move to a new high, and then it goes into that little congestion, which is good enough for a correction. And then, so there's really a double pattern there. Remember that you can go to any level and find trend line. So there's probably a trend line. It wasn't the way you had it drawn, or wasn't the way this person had it drawn. I don't want to call her name, but that's the way it should have been drawn. And you do get a close right there and a move to a new high. And then notice what happens. It goes into a correction, which that's good enough for a correction, and then it shoots up one more move higher. But if you're looking at the bigger picture here, that's your first break, and you move to the new high, and then it starts selling off again. So, yeah, there's some clues there. But notice mine doesn't quite look like yours does. Notice how mine's got one bar, then an inside bar, and then I get that bearish bar. Right here, you had the really bearish bar. And so now you got 1, 2, 3 bars stacked up. That looks real bearish, but if you're looking at these closes, in this trend line, that's the first break. So you're probably going to get another push up and get that new high, and it does that, and he actually tries to push for one more leg, and then they trap everybody, and boom, look what happens. So draw those short-term trend lines. Make sure they're holding prices neatly. And you can see this is just not holding prices very neatly. It's not touching the closes except for right there. It's not really touching the bottom stems. You probably should have drawn, if you'd have started with the closes, you would have gotten that trend line right across there. Even if you started here, you would have got that first short-term one. But anyway, you just didn't draw it properly, and that's, but you also missed the fact that this is a trading range, and your line should have been right across here. And you would have caught it coming off that high, but that might have kept you from getting short. If you just would have noticed that the bars are stacked up, and you would have noticed that trend line, that's really the only thing that could keep you out of that trade, because there is the trend line working down here. In a trend channel, but at some point you're always going to get a break, and so you got to be paying attention. At this point, really, it's looking more rangy across here than it really is trendy, and you've already got 2 legs down there, so there's a chance you could, you could move up there. And actually, this line I would have drawn it more like this as well. I think this is a little too steep here. Maybe, I'm not sure. You can't see the rest of the price action, so you may have adjusted it here. But I think I would have started mine out here and come across right there, and you would have caught all those closes. Still would have come right across this area. You're not off enough to make that much difference. The only thing you missed was I don't think you saw the support down here, but you didn't seem to see the resistance right across here. Which that really would have kept you out of that short, but what might have is if you saw that trend line, that short-term trend line. This is just not drawn properly. That's the bottom line. So, again, here's mine. If I had that first short-term one, I would have started like that. But once I saw these, I would have drawn these right here. And you can see it, even though we broke here, it was still trying to hold again. And that's the only thing you could have seen that would have kept you out of that most likely. Let me look how I would have probably drawn this trend line. Pretty sure I drew mine like that. And that was the first break right in there. I always verify it by how it fits on the other side. Fits pretty good right there. You can see that. Of course, that doesn't change this very much, other than you get the break there. So Looks a whole lot like today. That's the reason I got confused there for a minute. So it looks a lot like today, except the break came earlier. But again, this was more rangy looking. And there was some support there from the previous couple of days. You can see that. So it was bouncing prices, but eventually it gave way because the selling was just really extreme the last couple of days. And then you had the rally from lunch on and in the overnight. And really, by the end of the day, we almost closed unchanged again, right at 2,000. That's what's so interesting about it. You know, we closed right around 2,000 yesterday, over the holiday, the Friday before. You know, we're just stuck right around that 2,000. We're just swinging both sides, and that's not uncommon. So anyway, that was it for today. Hope you had a good trading day. I will be back to do it again tomorrow. I'm going to wrap it up, though. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystems.com, and we'll see you next time.